All right, welcome in, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. This is March the 2nd. We made it. Spring football beginning this week for multiple Power 5 schools. A couple SEC schools are going to get going with spring football this week today. Pitt and Colorado. Did not expect Colorado to be an early starter for spring practice, but here we are. Deion's group gets going. Florida will begin tomorrow. South Carolina the next day. Alabama later this week. They kick off spring practice on March the 8th. I am interested, Greg, since they begin spring practice this week, and we'll get to Alabama basketball, an incredible win against Tennessee over the weekend. We've got Richard Hendricks at 9:30 to discuss that, as well as Auburn's loss to Ole Miss, which could put the final nail in the coffin for their tournament hopes. Some people disagree. Ralph Russo joins us at 8 with a really cool story that he's working on about the future of college coaches, or I guess I should say where college coaches may be coaching in the future. It's a fun article that we'll have a good discussion about. But spring practice now beginning. We'll get a little bit of a better window into some of these spring practices this time around, as opposed to last year where it felt like it went into full hiding mode. But let's start with Alabama. We mentioned it a couple of times last week while you were gone. Things that we're looking for, things we want to try to learn, things that maybe could be out there that we may actually take away from this spring practice under Kalen DeBoer. What would be at that top of the list for you? Probably outside quarterback, because we don't know that, and we know that's going to be a quarterback battle. But what are some of the other details that you want to try to learn, you think you're going to learn about Alabama spring practice this year?
Well, we know they're going to be young, right? We understand that. We're going to be pretty open-minded, I think, about what they could be and what the starters might be, because there's a lot of guys that you don't know a whole lot about. I mean, could be freshmen, could be incoming transfers, could be lower-ranked 3-star players that end up being good players. Like, there's a lot of question marks when you really look at this team. Not in a bad way. It's just there's a lot of unknowns. So I'm curious, more than anything else, who the heck are the leaders going to be? That might be number one. Like, who's going to be out there in front when you watch them stretch? Who's going to be standing there in the middle?
And this is kind of it's interesting that you bring this up, because this has been our big question with Texas when we've discussed them this offseason, because the talent looks outrageous.
Right.
The overall ability looks insane.
Yeah.
But what do we just watch happen in college football? A team that no one would have really bragged about from that perspective, and even maybe their most talented player was not one that they just unleashed and asked to go out and win games every week.
Right.
So it feels more important than ever maybe to have these kind of guys. The hard part, Greg, is how do we know until we start playing games, how do we know who they are, who those guys even are? Can we figure that out in the spring? Other than you and I talking to some of the people that we know, we may be able,
Sure.
Some guys might give us a hint like, hey, so-and-so is, if it weren't for him, we would be really behind.
Yeah.
Or this guy's really keeping people accountable.
He's a dude.
Right.
Right. And you get some of that every once in a while, but most of the time nowadays, man, a lot of the guys are not even really willing to say that. I mean, it's too early. Like, you have sources, I have sources. I have gotten to the point where I don't want to say completely ignore, but I'll just tell you this. I take what I hear in the spring with a humongous grain of salt. I'm not sure if you approach it the same way, but that's the way I've been approaching it. Like, it's because even the coaches who are trying to do you a solid don't really know. Like, because at this point, it's a very, very short window. Like, I had guys over the last couple of years, like, for example, Nakai Hill-Green. Like, I remember when he first arrived, I had some people be like, man, he's got a little concerned about how, where he's at from an athleticism standpoint. And we'll see. Like, he makes a lot of plays on tape, but I don't know. It's a different animal. And then all of a sudden, he's making a lot of plays in the fall. And they're like, okay, good. He's exactly what we thought he was. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But they were underwhelmed early because he's not really like a workout guy. He's not a workout warrior. He's just a dang good football player. So I think sometimes the coaches are still in the process of getting to know their personnel at this point. So they're not really willing to dig their heels in, but it does take some time. I don't know if if you see it the same way, it does take some time for people to start to feel real good about what they have.
Yeah, and I think it's some of that. You can have a good leader in the weight room. You can have a good leader watching film in the off season. But once games begin, does that translate to the field? A lot of times it does. And a lot of times that we reference are just accountability more than anything else. Are you going to be there on time? Are you going to do the things that aren't necessary? Because, and I know a lot of people probably listen to this, Greg, and say, well, why? If you got a dude that makes plays, why does some of that even matter? Why is that even a huge deal? Well, because game's not going to go as according to practice all the time.
No.
You're going to see a look that you don't know. And are you going to panic? Or are you just going to do what is best to figure it out and survive the play? Maybe that's the best way to put it is, do you have guys that have survival instincts? And a lot of times what that means when they don't is your hands are shaking when you go put them under center, or that receiver's going to flinch off the line of scrimmage on 3rd and 5, and all of a sudden that's going to turn into a 3rd and 10. Your kicker's going to yank one left because the game's on the line. Like your snapper's not going to have it right where it needs to be because he hadn't been put in that pressure situation. It's not just, hey, can they run fast, jump high, catch ball, throw ball far? Those games are going to all have moments that they either need to be able to look to the guy next to him and he's going to say, hey, just block the 3 technique. And it doesn't matter if you're telling him you're blocking him. You're not turning him loose is the key. And he doesn't get a kill shot on your quarterback. So that's where all that stuff starts to matter. And who can go over to the bench and realistically calm the guys down?
Yeah.
And we have a timeout and you're all sitting out there on the field. You're not going over to the bench. Like, who can get everybody calmed down and who can sort of build a little extra confidence to be able to survive the play, survive the game? That's where all that stuff comes into matter. And we truly don't know for a lot of teams right now. It would take a little bit of a deeper dive by us, probably a little bit more of a lengthy one, but think down the list of SEC teams right now. Who are you super confident has that? And now Texas does have some of that. Like we've talked about it with Arch Manning. I don't know why he doesn't get enough credit for being that guy, but Arch Manning to me feels like a rally around guy. Like the other guys want to play better for him, like want to help him play better, want to be good because he's good. Like
yes.
And not everybody's like that. I mean, there are a lot of guys that are really good that certain players probably aren't rooting for.
But I'll tell you this, I think Arch Manning became that more so last year because of what he had to endure. If he didn't have his struggles, maybe if it was all easy peasy lemon squeezy for him in the first year as a starter, he might have alienated some guys. So maybe his struggles like humanized him to his teammates, and that made them kind of rally around him a little bit more. I don't know that for sure, but I'm assuming that might have played a role.
No, and I think the year before helped too, when he had almost just as much hype, but knew he wasn't going to play.
Right.
And probably didn't complain about it and probably didn't make because we heard nothing of that sort. So therefore, I would be willing to bet there was no ill will. There was no pouting. There was no why am I not playing from Arch Manning that previous year. And I think there are some guys on this Alabama team that could potentially fit this bill. I mean, from what I've heard, and I don't know who's going to win the quarterback battle, but what I've heard about Austin Mack, if he were to win the job from an ability talent standpoint, all that mental makeup stuff would not be a concern of mine.
Yeah.
With how he handles himself. I just haven't heard enough of that about Keelan Russell. He hadn't been around college football as long. So I just don't know if we know that much about him. It's not that I don't think he can do it or he doesn't have it. It's just we just don't know yet. But there are guys that have been around there long enough to know, all right, it's my turn to be that guy. And it's my turn to go and help lead. It's just going to be interesting to see sort of who shows up in that role for Alabama this fall.
Well, I mean, just in the little time that I've spent around Austin Mack, I mean, he approaches it like a real pro. I mean, I think that the guys see that. And it wouldn't surprise me if, he becomes a leader on the team, but you can't be a leader unless you're good. Like, I know that sounds crazy. Like, I know that that's like a backwards thing. People always say all the time, whether it's big companies or football programs, baseball programs, like, let's be real, man. If you're like a bottom of the roster guy, no one's listening to you. I hate to say that. It's just the reality. I mean, it's the way things are. Like, you have to be a top performer to really captivate the audience. You have to be. And if you don't play well or practice well or you don't perform in games, everything, you can be the greatest leader of all time. You can be like have a level of being able to approach the guys, speak to the guys like a minister on Sundays. Like there's like a reverend on Sundays. Like you could have very moving dialogue to get the guys to run through a brick wall. But if you aren't a player, they're not listening. So like that's, I think, the tricky part too. And this is when the team is trying to figure out, all right, who are going to be our guys? Because it's often a little bit of a chicken egg conversation. Well, it's great to know that this guy's a really good player, but he's a mute. He doesn't say anything. Well, this guy is not a good player and he never stops talking. And the guys are going to follow the guy that plays well, regardless of whether or not he's a good leader. So that's something that's why when coaches say, hey, our best guys, our best players are our best leaders, that's like the best scenario you could possibly have. If the best players are the best leaders, you're cooking. But that's not always the way it's going to work for a lot of teams.
Well, and then maybe some of your biggest problems would be the better the player that was the worst person or the worst leader became even more problematic. The guy that skipped workouts, the guy that didn't show up on time, the guy who talked back to coaches, if they were really great players at their position, that became even more problematic.
Yes.
Because the team needs them.
Correct.
And that goes to that sort of conversation that I've shared before between Jerry Kill when he got to Vanderbilt and Clark Lee saying, listen, man, I understand this whole raising family men and raising great men and wanting to do the right thing and, super disciplinary action you're trying to run with here. He goes, but there's also a part of you got to help your team a little bit, and your best players can't be on the bench for the games. Sorry. Do what you got to do off the field, do what you got to do at the Coliseum, make them run, whatever that is, but like you can't be sitting out your best players against the best teams you're playing against. Figure out another way to do it. And Clark basically told us, he's like, I would have never approached it that way. I felt like the biggest punishment was the game. Therefore, that needed to be laid out, and that's how we always did it. And he's like, Jerry kind of helped me understand. And he goes, we're not talking about robbing banks and stuff here. Like that's it. We're not, that's not what we're not talking about running around town breaking into cars. But we're just some of the things
what kind of cars?
Headaches around the facility that, I didn't like, but he's like, I had to sort of meet in the middle there a little bit because we needed them to be on the field to help our team. It's a juggling act, man. It really is. And
and there's no right answer. Like it's every situation's a little unique.
Yes. 100%.
It's not like there's a blueprint like, oh, well, this is how you handle this. Like every player's a little different. Every situation's a little different. Like, yeah, it's a tricky thing. But I think the most valuable thing about spring, the most valuable thing about figuring out how you're approaching your leadership is like figure out, all right, baseline, who are the guys that we absolutely will be playing? And then among those guys, you're not going to be able to figure out the positions you're not going to be able to figure out all the competitions in a 15 practice period. You're just not. So who are the guys that are absolutely going to be playing for sure? And then among those guys, who are the guys that we can rely on to make sure our message is received in the locker room? Would you not agree? Like, at what point did you know, all right, here are the guys that are going to be carrying the torch for the coaches in the locker room?
I knew pretty early because we had 2 or 3 alphas that, listen, we had Tequila Spikes on our team. Nobody talked back to him. Like, not a single person. And he never talked back to a coach, and he never didn't do anything right. And he was never a problem around the facility in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So not only was he probably, I want to be careful with how I say this, he wasn't our best player as far as talent, but he was our best player as far as talent and production. Like when you put it all together, he was our best guy.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean he wasn't an incredible football player, but like Robert Baker was the best football player on our team. Like when Bill Oliver took over, he's like, Robert Baker could be our best corner, our best safety. He could probably start for us at running back. He's our best wide receiver. And if I needed him at quarterback, I could probably play him there too. Like that's that kind of athlete he was. Now, Robert Baker went to prison. So it was a different deal that you had to manage. On cocaine trafficking charges, by the way. It was, and by the way, played for the Dolphins after that.
You're good.
If you want to know what kind of risk he was worth, that's where that went after that. We had other guys that were not necessarily in line that were super talents. But, we had Fred Beasley, we had Damian Craig, we had Tequila Spike. Like those guys made sure things went the way they were supposed to go.
Yeah.
So I knew right away what it was. Now, I think we were hurt greatly when those guys left because, like you said, I think there's also a fine line of the leadership part of not only being good, but at least playing. Because, like, I wasn't a good college football player, but once I began to play, I know I was a much different leader. And I saw that with a lot of guys around me. So we had some guys that were really good that weren't good leaders, but all the guys that played that wanted to lead could. You just had to want to do it. But you didn't have to be an All-American. You didn't have to be, a Heisman Trophy candidate. But you at least had to be out there playing. Because otherwise, guys don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear from you because what you are saying obviously has not paid off because you're not doing what I want to do.
Correct.
It's tough to hear.
Here's the other thing that's really tough too, and this is going to sound very unpopular. Not all positions can lead. Let
me rephrase for you and see if you agree with this. Certain positions can only lead to an extent.
No. I don't agree with that. Some positions are not to be heard from.
If you're talking kicker, holder, snapper, yeah, different. Okay. Punter, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, some of our best guys were snapper, kicker, punter. Like some of our best guys,
best
hardest
humans
workers,
on earth.
like best guys, hardest workers, like did everything right. And like if they went up to the front of the class and like Rolando wasn't going to hear from them, like it doesn't matter.
Fair.
Like, yeah. It's just the way it was going to go. Like it's not fair, not right. It's just the way it was going to be. Like some of the guys, if you want to reach all 125 guys in the locker room, you better have a position of substance. Like I'm going to be honest with you. Like there's other positions like the third corner or the swing tackle. No one's going to listen.
It's fair.
Like you can be a good swing tackle. No one's listening.
Yep.
I don't know why.
But if you're starting left tackle.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, I heard stories about Willie Anderson and he was gone before I got there, but just, the accountability that he would hold for other guys and
if you're a starter, that's different.
Well, he was also a starter that should be in the Hall of Fame. So he was really good at the same time. So it changes, but yeah, starter's different. And so I guess part of this is there's a lot of these teams we're going to talk about who are cranking up spring ball. We don't know who all the starters are. So therefore, you don't know, they don't know, we don't know who these leaders are going to be, but it does feel like it's becoming more important than ever. It's always been important. It's always been critical. But with how little these players know one another, with how little they've actually practiced together, it feels like rallying the troops, getting the guys together, help furthering the understanding of all of it, situational football, scheme, what alterations you're going to make in play, before play, after play. It's all super important, maybe more important than ever. So we'll continue the conversation with Paul Finebaum. He joins us every Monday. Before we do that, Greg, tell our listeners about Bromberg's.
Well, Bromberg's been my go-to for a long time. I always appreciate the experience I have when I shop at one of the oldest retailers in the entire Southeast. If you want high quality, well, how about buying from someone that's been serving this community for 190 years? I'd say that's a pretty good place to start. Now, there's several people that got engaged over the last couple months. Time to celebrate. Also time to prepare. Also time to plan weddings. And time to create your wedding registry as well. Let the experienced bridal consultants at Bromberg's help you out. They'll help you select everything you need. China to crystal to silverware and casual pieces as well. Start this new chapter with the experts who know registries best and enjoy 20% off wedding bands and special pricing on wedding party gifts. You can register online at brombergsbride.com or visit Bromberg's in Mountain Brook or at the Summit.
All right, when we come back, we will take a look at a couple of other these leadership notes that we have been discussing with Paul Finebaum and ask him if he thinks it's becoming more important than ever. Next, right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. It is 7:22, Monday, March 2nd. Joins us each and every Monday. Thanks to our friends at Craneworks of the SEC Network of ESPN. It's Paul Finebaum.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah! The big dog's got it.
Paul Finebaum on Mac and Cube in the morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it, the big dog's got it. Now, Paul Finebaum.
Paul, always great to hear from you on a Monday morning. Good to see you over the weekend as well. We were talking leadership in college football, specifically from players, and how these glue guys, these sort of hard hat guys that have been around the program 4 and 5 years, that we know have been a part of it and have been productive for their coaching staffs, may be more important than ever because of player movement, coaching changes, roster movement. How much further up the list of importance do you feel like things like that are for teams to go win now, maybe than 5, 8, 10 years ago?
I think it's pretty critical, and I know everyone is going to be a prisoner of the moment, Cole, and look at what we saw in January, but you can't get away from that, and there's no template anymore that is tried and true, and that's the most recent. So there is recency bias, but I think there's a lot to that because. I mean, we've seen so many great teams that just did not work cohesively together because you had individual talent, but you didn't have any the old cliche, everybody beating to everybody playing to the same heartbeat. So I think it's important, but I don't think because Indiana did it, that means that necessarily next year somebody else can pull it off. I will take talent as often as I can.
Paul, I guess one of the big takeaways over the last few days is all of a sudden, I mean, this is, wow, what took so long? A napalm bomb has been dropped on the sport as it relates to tampering, and the oversight committee is going to be implementing all these rules, and Dabo Swinney, of course, against Ole Miss, and like all this chaos has gone on this offseason. Now there's some legitimate, pretty heavy penalties that could be in place in the event in which you're busted tampering. How do you interpret these, Paul? And do you think this is something that'll get passed in a couple months?
I mean, I think it's good, and I think a lot of us, and I'll put myself at the top of the list, have been too quick to just say, oh, none of it matters. But it does matter. I mean, you have to have some rules, and I know the people in charge, Greg, want these things implemented. The issue becomes the most obvious and the same one that keeps coming up is how will it be enforced? Who will do the enforcing? And then how will it be adjudicated? And will we have some of the same legal challenges? I don't think it will be quite the same as a player suing to get his eligibility back, but this is a very litigious arena right now. And if LSU, for example, gets slammed, who's to say that they won't find some legal recourse, even though it doesn't look like it's spelled out on paper? So that's really my concern. And is the organization or whatever organization we're talking about here, do they have enough teeth and backbone to actually make these things work? And I have serious doubts about that.
Are you hearing a lot of buzz about this new, I guess, trick or game that the players are going to start with, essentially just unenrolling from school and then going and enrolling in another school, staying away from the portal, yet trying to find a new home, that becoming a real thing?
I think it could. I mean, right now, everything in college football is a shell game. How do you keep your eligibility after 5, 6, 7, 8 years? How do you disregard what you've already done? So I think if they can pull it off, the question then becomes, I'll go back to what I said a minute ago, who is going to stop them, especially if they have a legitimate challenge?
Paul, when you look at some of these fines and all this other stuff, 6-game suspension, do you think these are things that are realistically going to be implemented? I mean, to me, you're talking about money and all this other stuff, and all of a sudden the NCAA said, well, 20% fine. You issue a fine that's 20% of the entire football budget. I mean, that is substantial. So those that'll be voting on this, it makes me think that, like, hang on, that seems a bit aggressive. Do you think these things can actually be put in place?
No. And I don't doubt that. Again, voting on something and implementing it are completely different. And I just don't think the organization per se has enough clout right now. And again, I'm not even talking about all the things that are going on in D.C. and elsewhere. But the problem with the NCAA has always been that there's too many people in making the decisions for too few. And that's why this movement that continually comes up is, the Power Four moving away, the SEC moving away. I mean, all these things that you hear about on a talk show that sound crazy really aren't that crazy in principle.
Paul Finebaum joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. This meeting scheduled in Washington, D.C. with the president, with a panel to discuss the future of college sports. Do you anticipate anything worthwhile, anything of note will come from this?
I hope so. And the easiest thing, guys, is just to say this is ridiculous. And I read the other day, why is Nick Saban going? Why is anybody going? The bottom line is this: if something doesn't happen very quickly, and I mean in the next short period of time, we're talking about weeks, not years, then this thing could blow up. So however it came about, I'm in favor of. The question now becomes, with some of the most powerful people in Washington in the same room, including the most powerful person in the country, can anything get done? Or will it be a circus? Will it be just another show? Let's not forget the president issued an executive order in July that was supposed to implement certain things. We don't need any more shows in college football. We need action. And I just hope that maybe somebody in this room, I don't care who it is, whether it's Saban, whether it's Urban Meyer, whether it's Tiger Woods, Brian DeChambeau, it doesn't make any difference to me, can say something compelling enough for the president and his people to say, let's go make this happen. And so far that hasn't happened. I know people are saying, hey, aren't we at war? Aren't we? Where all these things are true, but this is still going to go on. And at least for 90 minutes to 2 hours, everyone that matters in this bubble will be paying attention. So the key isn't for sound bites. The key isn't to grandstand. The key is to actually get something implemented, however that is. And I think this is one of the most critical moments that the sport has had recently.
All right, so I just want to go back, Paul. When you say things could fall apart, I think there are a lot of listeners that hear that and say, I've been hearing this for 4 or 5 years now. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Take us a step further as to what could go wrong so quickly if there is not some sort of action taking place.
Well, I think the sport's already unmanageable, and I think what we're talking about here, will there be this inflection point, some tragedy that the current infrastructure or lack of structure creates, or does somebody just go rogue? Somebody in the Big 12 and the Big 10, the ACC, or even the SEC say, you know what, we're leaving this charade. And the concern is that a lot of these conversations are going on. I don't know how serious they are, but there are really a lot of angry people inside the bubble. And I just think that you could start to see some fissures. You could start to see some breakup. I'm not saying that the sport is coming apart. We still have a great sport. It's just everything around it could start to loosen. And when you have something that is creaking along on the highway, ultimately it will crash.
Paul, what do you make of the contingent that will be descending on Washington, the actual individuals themselves, everything from Nick Saban to Tim Tebow, your colleague? So how they come up with such an interesting cast that needs to go in and give the opinions of what football should look like?
Greg, first of all, I'm really flattered that you think I would actually know that answer. I really have no idea. Knowing how politics works as both of you, I think somebody had this idea. I'm sure it started a couple weeks ago when Urban Meyer and Saban played golf with the president and Ron DeSantis. And what happens in Washington is you give it to somebody else who gives it to somebody else, and it starts metastasizing. I do think it would be nice, and it may still happen, to see people that are playing today in that room as opposed to 15 or 20 years ago. But I think it's one thing we know about Washington and the president. He has a lot of friends, and I'm sure he's leaning on them. But how some of these people got involved, I'm really not sure. I guess what I'm really suggesting is, how did Cole Kubelik not get invited?
Because they don't know who I am, and none care about my opinion, Paul. So it's maybe I haven't stepped out and given enough of a political thought on the show.
You've been a real political guy.
Go for it.
If I had thrown my name out there for Senate, then maybe they would have invited me up there.
That would have been a big. Well, I'm surprised.
Isn't there a Senate seat open? You should go get it.
Yeah, maybe.
The deadline just passed, Greg. Sorry to report.
Dang it.
Hey, Paul, one more question. Since you just threw that name out there, how insane would it be in your mind if there was an actual run for president by that individual one day?
Well, I'm here to tell you he's serious. I'm not speaking for him, although I do speak to him, and he is very serious about it. And he may be naive, or he may be crazy, or maybe all of those things, but he believes that he can merge the extremes together, and that's where he is right now. And I know enough, and you guys know enough about politics, that is often the most narrow and difficult road, but. I think if he does run, I hope ESPN allows him to keep doing his show every day, don't you?
Absolutely.
Surely.
Yeah. We'll see.
Paul,
Paul,
take it down to 2 hours instead of 7 when he's on the air. It'd be helpful.
Paul, great stuff. Appreciate it, and I look forward to catching up next week.
Of course. Thank you.
Paul Finebaum joining us on the Higginbotham hotline, discussing some of the potential rule changes, some of the potential changes, period, on the way in college football. We'll follow up with a few of those. Also, some of the teams that are going to be beginning spring practice today, this week, not just Alabama. We'll take a look at sort of what we're watching for, what we feel like we can potentially learn, what we want to learn from some of those teams. I'll tell you what you can learn at Game Day Men's Health. It's how to lose some weight, how to feel better, how to sleep better, how to not walk around being on edge anymore, because that's what Game Day Men's Health does. And it's easy for them to be able to help you. Just go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. You'll sign up for a free consultation. You get the free PSA test, the free testosterone test, and then they'll give you a baseline of your health after you weigh in, blood pressure, all the other stuff, and they'll say, these are the programs we have that could potentially help you. And you can save 10% on any of those when you mention Mac and Cube and you walk in the front door. Why not go try to feel better? Whether it's putting on some weight over the holidays, maybe old age is starting to set in, you want to feel a little bit better, the joints are achy, they can help you with the peptides, a lot of different things at Game Day Men's Health. Just go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today, sign up for that free consultation, see what they can do for you, locker room environment, minimal upfront costs on the programs they offer, and now open in Trustville. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Tell them you heard about them right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. Let's take a look at some of the teams beginning spring practice this week. We'll do it next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Good stuff there with Paul Finebaum. Joins us weekly. Thanks to our friends at Craneworks. Ralph Russo coming up at 8 a.m. What if Ralph told you who all the SEC coaches were going to be in 2030? It's the article he has out now. So he takes his best shot at it. We will have some fun with it, debate it, kick it around, talk to him about some different things of just how that has gone and how that will go. But nonetheless, it's going to be a fun conversation with Ralph at 8, and we'll talk to Richard Hendricks, thanks to our friends at Mystery Breaks, coming up at 9:30. Big college basketball weekend, massive for Alabama, not great for Auburn. Some other interesting ones in the SEC. Florida, a massive win against Arkansas. Gators look like they're rolling, and Duke is beginning to look like the undisputed number one team in the nation. They feel like they might be pulling away from just about everybody else. So we'll hit all that with Richard Hendricks coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. Pitt, Colorado begin today. I mentioned that just a little bit earlier, GMAC. This is not going to be different from a lot of other teams, but quarterback is going to be a big part of the conversation for a lot of the teams that we're talking about in spring practice. Pitt is one that I kind of thought they'd be set for a few years when they got a quarterback transfer. I guess that was going into last season with Eli Holstein, and that didn't hold up. So now I think that becomes another question mark again. But anything else from a Pitt perspective heading into spring as far as sort of where they may be going? I mean, not that they don't have their quarterback now.
Right.
But just felt like that was going to be the one for the next few years. Any other big question marks with Pitt that you're looking at as they start spring practice?
I mean, their quarterback's a dude, big dude. He's really, really good. So I think he's in a great spot. Offensively, they should be fine. Defensively, they were quite good last year against the run. The big thing about Pitt is they crumbled down the stretch. I mean, were they ever actually good? That's like the real question, I think, for Pitt. Like their schedule was good. Their record was good. But you start to face real teams those final couple weeks against Notre Dame, against Miami in the final 2 weeks, and it was like, woo. You know what I mean? That, I think, was a tough thing to figure out if you're Pitt. So for them, like, how do you finish? That's probably the big key.
Yep.
And they just don't have a ton of depth. And they did a great job of keeping their quarterback around, because I know a lot of teams were very interested in trying to bring him and his offensive coordinator to become their guy. So We'll see what that means.
And then quarterback will also be the big question mark in Boulder as Colorado begins today. Probably another one. I'll say the same thing. Going into last year, thought they had their transfer quarterback for the next few years, and then Caden Salter doesn't really work out. Juju Lewis, you imagine, will get his shot at it. Kylan Salter still going to be there to compete as Caden moves on, but have to think that quarterback, a late loss of your defensive coordinator, also your defensive line coach, so staff changes on that side of the ball late. Probably another thing with a lot of talent gone on that side of the football that you wonder how Colorado is going to have a chance to look this fall.
Yeah, and I think Colorado, obviously the shine is off a little bit. Like last year was a real eye-opener. The post-Shador, post-Travis Hunter era. Those two guys being gone, and they fall off a cliff. But the problem with Colorado last year is it was very uninspiring. If you watch from the very beginning and you'll look at that game against, say, I don't know, Georgia Tech week 1. If you watch them week 1, that game was not overly competitive, if not for like some ridiculous mistakes.
Didn't Tech turn it over 5 times?
Oh my gosh. It was like, what are we doing? And yet they still won the game on the road. You know how hard it is to win on the road when you turn it over like that? I mean, dropping shotgun snaps. I mean, it was a disaster. So yeah, it was a huge problem, but Colorado just wasn't very competitive last year. I mean, that's a concern. And you now have guys leaving the program. Warren Sapp just decided to leave. Like, what is that an indicator for you, Cole, that things are not going in a great direction?
Not that one. The D coordinator leaving to the NFL late would be, but I think that's the ultimate wild card. I would never lean program problem with that. No,
not leaning program problem, but is there best behind him?
Depends on what the best was. If it was when Shador and Travis were there, then I would say yes. Honestly, first and foremost, you just don't have the guys. And there's a couple guys through the portal who I think are going to help him. Like if you can get Boo Carter acting right, can he help you? Sure. Good football player. Can be. Not always. Can DeAndre Moore come in and help you at wide receiver? We've seen him play really good football when he's healthy. So it's not that they don't have any talent. It's not that they don't have some guys, but it's not going to be like it was. I mean, you had a very talented quarterback running a system with other coaches around him that he was very familiar with, at times throwing to somebody who was incredible, and also that same guy making incredible plays when they were on defense. And there was that little bit of mystique / unknown of who they were going to be, how they were going to be. And like you said, I think a little bit of the luster is off. And now we need to see if they can just go even it up and play real football against people and win a lot of games. I think this is the first year you kind of figure that out. Because last year was going to be a little bit more of a feeling out process too because of how much you lost. There was no real expectation last year with multiple high draft picks leaving your football team.
Yeah.
Now there will be. So we'll see there in Colorado. Tomorrow we're going to get USC and Florida starting spring practice. While you were out last week, we started talking about different players. There was an article that was out about the most explosive playmakers in college football, or best playmakers in college football.
Yeah.
And we all had a little bit of a different thought of what that really meant and kind of who that was, as opposed to maybe what the list had exactly. But we kept coming back to this Florida roster.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept coming back to what they might end up being. I want to spend a little bit of time with just maybe what your expectation is for that program under John Summerall year one, not because they're Florida, not because he's there, but honestly because of some of the guys that they're going to have that I think are being slept on just a little bit. So when we come back, we'll begin to do that next right here on Jocks. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. JocksFM.com. The app is in your app store, iPhone, Android. You can download that for free. Get the podcast right there in the app, also online. And don't forget to tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC dealer of the year, the national champion of GMC dealers. You go and take the short drive up to Coleman, you'll understand why. It's because the deals they have on the lot are incredible. To think that they've won the national championship of GMC 9 times is absurd. It's a dynasty, and us in this state, we're familiar with that. So one dynasty should respect another dynasty and just take the short drive up to Coleman and be glad that you did. When you look at the deals that they have, like a Encore GX Sport Touring 2026, $32,275 is the list price. You can get it for $25,025. I mean, that is a deal right there. To take $7,200+ off of a $3,200 vehicle is absurd. So take the short drive to Coleman to be glad you did. 75% of their business repeat customers. That's because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take the short drive to Coleman to be glad you did. You can also shop online. Have to right to your driveway at Bill Smith Buick, GMC.com.
All right, so we're talking about this Florida offense and maybe what it may turn into. And you and I talked about it a little bit more during the break. I do believe people are kind of sleeping on what this offense could be this upcoming season. Like a lot of other teams we're going to talk about, a lot of things have to come together. It's still a first-year head coach. It's still a new offense. But, Greg, you're going to throw a group out on the field with a quarterback in Aaron Philo that has been in this system, played in this system, practiced in this system. We still don't really know much about what he's going to be as far as live bullets, what it's going to look like. But you're going to be able to hand the ball to Jaden Ball. You're going to have Dallas Wilson lined up outside. You're still going to have Vernell Brown at wide receiver. Micah Mays is a big physical target from Wake Forest that I think is super solid and gives you a different type player out there.
I got to do some due diligence on him.
Yeah, I think you'll like him. Again,
Can he run?
I'm not trying to. No, he's not. He's not that kind of guy.
Well, I need guys that can run.
He's more your big target possession guy. Can work underneath,
Horatio
work middle of the
Fields.
field. Yeah, probably not quite as tweaked up, but close.
Okay.
But you got Dallas Wilson, a one-on-one guy down the field outside. You got Vernell Brown. Then you'll have Micah Mays. And then you got Eric Singleton as your move guy, which in this offense, with all the motion and different things, and if anybody knows how to use him, I would say this offense does. People kind of forget he sort of made his money in this offense. Eric Singleton's back in this offense. It's just in Gainesville. You put all those pieces together, I realize the O-line is a little bit of a patchwork group right now. How many great Georgia Tech O-lines have we seen with these moving the football the last few years? A couple good players. They play hard, but it's not like they've had the most talented guys. So I just think there are a lot of things beginning to lean Florida's way as far as their offense being able to find some success this year.
And one other thing, this is outside of the personnel conversation. Their schedule the last couple of years has been absurd. Their schedule this year is a little bit more gettable. It's a little bit more manageable. So maybe those pieces that we talk about, maybe if it takes them a week or two, a month or two to kind of get used to the new offense, to get comfortable within the new offense, I think their personnel is still Florida. They're still going to have dudes.
Yeah.
But they have an opportunity to kind of flush out some growing pains this year, which they did not have the luxury of the last couple seasons.
No, it's a good point. And it was right out of the gate, murderer's row for Florida the last couple of years.
For sure.
And now it's you may have just a little more leeway as to how you could find your way. You get FAU, the Campbell Camels, right out of the gate. You are at Auburn week 3. Then you get Ole Miss. Then you're at Missouri, South Carolina, at Texas, week off. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party will be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium this year. Do they open the roof just to keep the name accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Or just a crack in the roof. Even though the top of the roof looks like the bottom of one of the spaceships from Independence Day.
Tell me if this is a real thing. I have this game on fbschedules.com listed as the Invesco Atlanta Gridiron Classic.
Don't know.
What? Are we allowing a completely different name for a rivalry game?
Money talks.
Now, imagine if the Iron Bowl just all of a sudden became
The U.S. Steel Iron Bowl.
Now
Bucky's
we're
Iron
talking.
Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, I need further details on that. I don't recall that coming up. Did we just, when we knew we were going to have to play one in Atlanta, just somebody said, you know what, we'll take the naming rights to that? Because it's technically not the original game not being played where it's supposed to be. Then they get Oklahoma at Kentucky, Vandy at Florida State. The home stretch could be maybe big for Florida.
Yeah.
You could open up well, you could close well. How you manage the middle. And there's a lot of those teams that we're just, listen, this is not going to change for us before the season starts. There's a lot of these big maybe teams in here. South Carolina, Missouri, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, giant maybes. Could be giant killers. Could be giant failures. Who knows? Auburn might fall into that category as well.
There's so many that fall into that category.
So many. We feel great about Texas. We feel really good about Georgia.
I don't feel good about anybody. I don't great about anybody. I feel good about a lot of teams, including Florida, including Auburn. Like, that's the problem. Is like, at what point do you separate good from great? And I don't know when you do that. Week 8?
Great from how about this might be harder. Great from elite.
I'm not doing that. Not in the preseason.
I mean, the amount of teams that we would even tinker with having a discussion on being elite this year is going to be minuscule.
Yeah.
Not a small handful of teams in a conference, a small handful of teams in all of college football. I think when we even debate, they could be elite this year because there's just it's hard to find that confidence.
Yeah.
Ralph Russo is going to tell you all who your head coach is going to be in 2030 next on Jocks.